Hi guys! Welcome back to We Should Talk, a pop culture interview series from In the Know. I'm your host, Gibson Johns, and this week we're taking a slight break from Bravo. We've had some great Bravo-themed episodes over the past couple weeks, but it's been a lot, so I figured why not throw something else different in there? Because again, this is not a Bravo podcast, it's a pop culture podcast. So this week we are talking about The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, Bachelor Nation. There's a lot going on in that world right now. If you're not watching Matt James's season, you know, I'm sure you've kind of heard a lot of the different discussions happening, you know, about other things. But this week on the podcast, we have the one and only Tayshia Adams, who is the most recent lead of The Bachelorette. Her season just ended in December. She is happily engaged to Zac Clark, and they are starting their life in New York City. So it was amazing to touch base with Tayshia and hear all about her life in New York, her plans for the future, and also her season. You know, we really dug deep into her season because, you know, to me, and I said this a lot, I said this to her, I said this a lot during the season, I think that Tayshia was kind of a perfect Bachelorette. You know, I think that she came into the experience very open. She gave everyone the time of day, which Claire, who started her season, did not. We all know that. She had eyes only on Dale, and I think Tayshia really kind of, we could have seen her end up with multiple people on this show, and, you know, I think that makes for a better season. What also makes for a better season is when the lead is in their 30s. She's in her 30s, and I think that makes for someone who is actually looking for somebody substantial to spend their life with. They're not looking for just somebody for right now, which I think a lot of people in their 20s are in that mindset, obviously. And I think when the lead is in their 20s, it creates for a more immature season, you know, more infighting with the contestants, less interesting conversation. And so I think that makes for better seasons overall, not just with Tayshia. And also, Tayshia is the first ever biracial lead of a Bachelor or Bachelorette show, which I can't believe it took them that long to make that happen. But because of that, she brought this perspective to some really important and special conversations that happened throughout her season, including this amazing one with Ivan about Black Lives Matter, other conversations about race. There are also some other really important topics that were touched on throughout the season. And I think that Tayshia she came in with this open mind, and she also has this really infectious personality, obviously. She has amazing style. I mean, all those satin dresses that she wore throughout were just, like, impeccable. Love. So it was really fun just to pick her brain about her season. You know, when we recorded this, it was a couple weeks ago, and the situation with Chris Harrison and Rachel O'Connell, and, you know, the photos from her past at the antebellum themed party, that whole situation was still sort of boiling up. I think the interview on Extra that he did with Rachel Lindsay had just happened, and so sort of a lot of the outcry hadn't really gone out yet. I think it was literally that day that we recorded this, and so I didn't want to ask her about specifics about the situation because I knew it was ongoing. I knew that it was going to change, and I didn't want this to feel outdated. So I did get her general thoughts on, you know, that situation and sort of also where this franchise goes from here. Like what does she want to see changing in the future? Because again, she has this amazing perspective, and she really takes pride in being, you know, a beacon for change in this Bachelor Nation. And she talked about sort of people reaching out to her and thanking her for being a representation for them that they hadn't seen on the show before. And, you know, she said something really poignant, which is just like, it's not that hard to just admit your wrongdoing and say that you're willing to learn and say that you're willing to change and saying that you're open to really understanding what you did wrong. And it took Rachel so long to say that. You know, I think all things considered, Rachel's statement was actually fairly decent, but it, one, came too late, and two, again, these notes app apologies that people keep putting up just are so faceless and so emotionless. And it's sort of like, why not post a video of yourself explaining yourself? Why not, like, you know, don't hide behind this like stagnant black and white note that like Chris Harrison posted that, Rachel posted that. Be like Tayshia, who went to her Instagram stories and talked all about it on her Instagram story. Be like Rachel Lindsay, who interviewed Chris Harrison about it and held his feet to the fire on it, even when he was somehow, for some reason, defending this person's past. Be like Rachel Lindsay and go on your podcast and have a full-length discussion explaining your thoughts and feelings about this whole thing. You know, definitely listen to Rachel's Higher Ground episode, which is her podcast about this whole situation. It's really important and interesting to hear from her. Watch the Chris Harrison interview. It's one of the most shocking things that I've watched in recent memory when it comes to pop culture. It is so tone deaf and so shocking that, like, one, that he thinks this as a producer and host of the show, that he thinks these things about quote unquote woke police, about, you know, race issues, about, you know, how things from the past can come back to bite you. It was really honestly like mind-boggling. But then the fact that he thought it was an okay decision to go on TV and say those things, not just keep it to himself. And then the person that he's talking to is the first ever black lead of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. Like, it's just shocking. He was basically telling Rachel Lindsay that what she was feeling about this whole situation, which definitely pertains to her, and her perspective matters on this, didn't matter. And it's just like, who is he to say that? And so, you know, I'm glad that he's stepping back from after the final rose, but is that it? Like, is he actually going to learn? All I want is like to think past these notes app apologies and think about like holding these people accountable in actuality. Like, what is he actually going to do to change? You know, there's this amazing Instagram account called Bachelor Data. And it tracks a lot of different things like social media engagement and screen time and different things. But one of the most interesting things to me on there is that it sort of looks at the casting for Matt James's season, which is the most diverse cast in Bachelor history. Over 50% of the women are people of color. But it compares that to the screen time that everyone gets. And guess what? Shocker. The white contestants, even though they make up less than 50% of the people on the season, they get over 50% of the screen time. Like, it's not shocking, but it's disappointing. And it just shows you that just casting people of color is not the answer. It's a step for sure, and representation matters. But if you're not showing them as much on screen, it doesn't feel like they're there. We're not getting to know them. We're not really learning their stories. And that's an issue, okay? And, you know, there's so much that's wrong with a lot of different shows. It's not just The Bachelor, but The Bachelor and The Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise, all these shows take up a pretty large space in the zeitgeist. You know, the cultural conversation always circles back to these shows. A lot of people watch them. It has all these breakout stars that are all over social media. They come back to these shows all the time. And so to me, it does matter because it captures so many people's attention. And if the people from the top, Chris Harrison, who is the host and producer of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, if he thinks these things, and if he doesn't think things need to change, then is it ever going to change? And, you know, I think we think a lot about sort of the outcry. You know, I loved the reaction to the Chris Harrison interview because there was so much solidarity with Rachel Lindsay, with the people of color on Matt James's season right now. There were a lot of ex-Bachelor people that spoke out about this, and that was great. But what happens next? And why haven't they changed already? You know, they're obviously really far behind on the times, not just with race, but with representation for queer people, with gender norms, and they really play into these antiquated ideas of gender norms and how relationships should work. There's a lot to change about the show, but there's so many obvious things that they already should be doing, and it just makes you think, like, why haven't they already done it? You know, it's obviously the people at the top, but maybe the people who aren't being as loud who watch this show think that nothing needs to change, and it's just it's kind of hard to relate to that and to think that that's actually true. But there must be some validity in that, but that doesn't excuse their behaviors, and that does not excuse their unwillingness to change. The change needs to come from them, and then the viewers will adapt to that because they like this show too much to give it up. And so I just think that, you know, this no top apology situation, stepping back for one, you know, final special at the end of the season is not enough. So I'm just interested to see how this plays out. But that's I just wanted to sort of, you know, explain myself on that and tell you why you're not going to hear more specifics about that in the Tayshia interview, because it is a really pertinent topic right now. But again, I knew this was like a rolling issue and I didn't want this to feel out of date. But regardless, we talked a lot about sort of similar kind of just like overarching themes as it relates to these shows. And Tayshia had some really amazing things to say. So keep listening for my interview with Tayshia Adams, former Bachelorette star, host of Clickbait Podcast. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to We Should Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Enjoy the interview. All right, guys, we are here with Tayshia Adams from The Bachelorette. Tayshia, how are you today?
I'm doing so well. How are you?
Good. We were just talking. You are the newest New Yorker. Like, I'm so happy that you are experiencing this amazing city. I'm on the Lower East Side. You are uptown. How has it been for you so far in New York?
Well, I'm loving it. Number one, I love the outdoor seating. I think that's so much fun. But it's also really freaking cold. And us Cali girls are not used to this stuff. But I'm adjusting.
Yeah, it's a tough adjustment from Orange. This is definitely not Orange County weather.
No,
So,
no, not
and
at all.
we just had a blizzard last week, so that definitely did not help your case.
Not at all.
So you are my sixth Bachelorette interview. I've interviewed Andy, Rachel, Caitlin, Allie, and JoJo. So you're, and I feel like that's pretty good company to be in. That's a pretty good group of women to be in.
Really good company. Oh, well,
Yeah.
thank you. This is exciting.
Do you feel like you're part of this sort of like mini sorority that now that, I mean, it really is not that many women that have been able to have that title.
Not at all. I mean, there's 16 seasons. So,
Yeah.
But it is a sorority. We do have a little Bachelorette group chat, which is quite nice. And
Amazing.
when I first became the Bachelorette, Becca actually sent me this book. It's called the Bachelorette book that past Bachelorettes has actually like written down little words of advice. So now I have like a little, it's like the opposite of a burn book. You know what I mean? Like the Mean Girls burn book. It's more of like how to get through this.
I had no idea
time.
that existed. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's more of like a hush hush thing, but
It's sort of like the Sisterhood of the Traveling. It's like a little journal. I love that.
exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was, yes. So I definitely feel like I've been in a sorority.
Yeah.
I've never
So
won
fun.
one in college. So this is cool.
Love it. So obviously everyone had a crazy 2020, but I think you probably had a particular crazy 2020 if we're thinking about it. And you ended it on a high with sort of with the end of your season. You were finally able to share this huge news of your engagement. So you must have, and you obviously moved like we just talked about. You must have felt like 2021 was like an extra fresh start for you. It's sort of like a really like a new beginning. Was that how you felt going into this year and so far in 2021?
Absolutely. I mean, I still kind of felt like I was on this high and this kind of like, what is reality at first, just because I just was recently engaged. So I was going to this new year with the guy. So I had a New Year kiss, which is amazing, which I haven't had in a long time.
Jealous.
But it's just, but it's just so many adjustments. And I was kind of on go, go, go mode that I don't really know that if I kind of realized, the transition that I had made with how heavy 2020 started and like how high my 2021 started. But it's going really well, and I'm still kind of up there on cloud nine, so it's kind of nice.
As you should be. I think you should stay there for as long as possible. And
I'm gonna try.
So how has life with Zac been? It looks like you guys are having a lot of fun together already, and it looks like you really have jumped kind of headfirst into this together. Talk to me about just sort of building your life together, because obviously it's still really early, but it's exciting.
Yeah, no, it's been so much fun. I feel like, I mean, we are a real couple, so we definitely have ups and downs.
Of course.
But I think like it's been so fun to get to see, his line of work out here. I've been visiting the houses that he has, to help people in recovery, which has been amazing. So I've just been seeing different sides of him that you're not able to see on the show. And it's been so fun being able to integrate with his friends and his family and having him come down to Orange County and meet my friends and family. There's so many things that we still need to learn out about each other, but we're having like a fun time doing it. It doesn't feel rushed, which is really nice. That
was my next question is I feel like, there's this sort of timeline for the show. And I feel like, people have sort of broken out of that in recent years. And I think that that's kind of, just more expected probably to not be in this timeline. And it sounds like you don't feel that pressure to, rush to a wedding and just sort of like enjoy this relationship and learn about each other more.
Well, the thing is, I want it to work. Like I want it to be successful. And I already know I love him. He already knows he loves me. I know he loves me. So it's like, what is the rush? I rather work throughout the kinks like you normally do with a relationship. And so, in order to do that, I really feel like we kind of got to take a step back. Like, okay, like I got this little thing on. So like, let's figure each other out. Let's like go to counseling. Let's do, little family trips or little getaways just to like really solidify what we have and feel good about moving forward.
Totally. You mentioned visiting some of the recovery houses, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. Is that something that is that something that you sort of would want to get more involved in with Zac, and really, because it does sound like a really, it's obviously intense, but it's also a really special and rewarding experience to probably visit these places and get involved. Talking about sort of, is that something you'd like to do more of in the future with him?
100%. In fact, every time I go, I just kind of like start brainstorming, like, how can I try to help or like, get involved in, I love the space that he's in. And I think, really helping people in general is something that we're both very passionate about. And, just being able to see these men and women change before your eyes because of like the process that they've have implemented and like the programs that they have, it's incredible. Yeah. And, him and I have talked about like, I don't know, maybe like I can start getting in there and, being able to speak to the women in a different way that maybe he couldn't. So, yeah, I definitely want to get involved. I think that with that takes a little bit of time. So I want to be able to do it in the right way. And I think, there's just little things I need to learn in order to do
absolutely.
So.
And that's so important too, because you don't want people in those positions to feel like you're just sort of jumping in without taking the time to learn. And it's nice that you are. Yeah, exactly.
Without thinking about it and just thinking like, oh, I can do this. Like, no, there's people in this field that have specialties in it because of a reason. And it's like, I want to be able to help, but also do it in the most effective way. Because I know I have a lot to offer. Yeah,
of course. So I want to take a little bit back to earlier in 2020, because, again, it was a big year for a lot of people, and you went through this really wild experience that wasn't planned either, and it wasn't the original plan for you. I haven't heard this. I haven't heard, but where were you, or what sort of mental space were you in when you got the call of you might have the opportunity to be the Bachelorette?
In all honesty, my best friend was like, all you've been talking about is wanting to find your person. Like, we get it. Like, because during like quarantine, it was just like, this is ridiculous. I'm by myself. I have my plant to talk to. I have nobody else. Like, I picked the wrong time to be freaking single and live alone. Okay. But I will say, like, it was right before the pandemic where I had decided, I'm ready to be in a relationship. And it was that weekend when everything shut down that we were supposed to go out and I was going to like have a good night out, and then it got shut down. So
womp, womp,
convenient, right. But that was God protecting me and saving me to like not get in a relationship and be ready for this, I feel like. But I was definitely in the headspace of being ready to find somebody and being in a relationship. I was at home, and at this point it was, I don't know how many weeks of quarantine, but I was like losing my mind. I had just bought donuts, and I had just called my girlfriend and said, I have nothing tying me down here. I'm actually going to get on the plane and go to Mexico for the weekend because, like, why not? And then shortly after, like about an hour later, I got the phone call like,
wow.
So,
Mexico can wait.
So, yeah, I'm just going to have to put that on hold for a second. I'm going on actually, I wasn't even going on a plane. I'm going on a trip, but not exactly what I was planning. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. And I feel like in some ways, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in some ways you were able to avoid some of the scrutiny and pressure that comes with being announced as a lead and then having be months of lead up and sort of this whole marketing thing around you. And I feel like, for Claire, it was like, here's the oldest Bachelorette ever. And it was this whole build up. And I'm curious if you feel like you avoided some of that pressure, that maybe it's self-imposed, maybe it's just from Bachelor Nation as a whole, but because again, like, I think there were obviously rumors of what was going to happen, but it wasn't confirmed until we were in season.
Right. That's always a fear though. Like, even like with me not having that lead up and knowing that I was going to show up and nobody else really confirmed knew that, like, I was scared that people were going to be like, wait, why is it her, mid-season? So yeah, definitely. I do feel like I kind of like dodged that bullet of, I don't know, being pegged by some people prematurely to like not be fit enough to be the Bachelorette, or, maybe I'm too this and too that for them. And like, just really getting my own head, I feel like. So I will say, I think, and I've said this multiple times, I think that this happened not the way that I thought it would happen, but the best way for me. Because I think if I had too much time to overthink everything, I would have not have been able to be myself.
I see that. I totally see that. I feel like you didn't have time to let the process get to you, and you just had to jump in.
I didn't know any of the guys. I hadn't researched because at that point, like, it was clear, like, like those guys weren't going to be anybody I would date. So I didn't know who I was walking into. I didn't know really anything about it. My headspace was pure and genuine. And it was just like, okay, like all I know is that I'm ready. I hope they are, and like they'll accept me. And that's how I went to be the Bachelorette.
and I have to say, I think that came across, and I think I definitely sounded like a broken record during the season, because I kept saying that to me, like you were a perfect Bachelorette, Justin. And I'm not just saying that, but I think it's really because it felt like you were super open to it. You were open to finding someone. You were giving everyone a chance, which is really important. You were also open to have these really, important, sometimes difficult conversations that I think a lot of past leads weren't either in the position to have or just weren't willing to have, whether it was a Black Lives Matter conversation or when somebody brought up, a suicide attempt or various family issues that came up towards the end of the season. There was a lot of kind of heavier things that were talked about that created for these really, I think, special moments for viewers and people to be able to witness those conversations. I just thought was really special. Did you, when you were watching it back, did you feel that appreciation from fans that you were having those moments and having those conversations?
I felt an insane outpour of support and love. And I will tell you, like, before these conversations did air, I was always worried because, I feel like you can never ever do anything right. I feel like someone's always going to say something, and definitely they did. But I have also learned to listen to the 99% people that are like speaking highly as opposed to the 1% that are not. And I feel like everyone just was looking for more last year. I think we all kind of needed it because it was so heavy. And I feel like the appreciation and love that I got was just insane. I don't know. It was amazing. And I'm so happy we were able to have those real conversations. I think 2020 really allowed for us to be more vulnerable with each other. I think like the absence of like not being in the same room as other people and not having physical touch or any of that kind of stuff really allowed these guys to also be able to open up and like long for something real. And so it was kind of like a perfect storm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it almost people's guards were more down than perhaps they would have been otherwise. Yeah, that's I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know. I feel like people were just looking for more. And I think that. Yeah.
And I think you guys gave it to us. So I think that's, again, like, I think that's awesome. And this is literally no shade, but that's a huge departure from the season we're getting right now on The Bachelor. I think there's a lot of focus on sort of just like this inner fighting between the contestants, and it feels just like really trivial and unnecessary a lot of the time. And is that how you're kind of, what's your opinion on sort of how that's playing out sort of on this current season? Because it just feels like a huge departure.
I don't ever remember women ever being this way. And I don't ever, these are not, I'm sorry, it sucks to say, but those are not like people I would generally want to hang around with, like the negativity and the toxicity that was in that place. I think like people coming up with rumors about one another is just something I try to stay away from. Clearly, I don't like drama.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think I would have had a hard time, not gonna lie, if I was in their shoes. But I think it's just really sad to me that we're seeing this like firsthand, and it's not even just one instance. It's like multiple, and it's going on. And I know that these women are obviously incredible women. That's why they were chosen to be on the show. And I'm sure they have so many good characteristics to them. However, I just wish that those would be more shown and highlighted as opposed to the nasty and the dirty comments.
Yeah. And like we all love a villain, a quote unquote villain. I think that every season has one, and it's I guess it sort of like comes with the territory, but it feels like it was more of like a mob mentality of like a lot of people against one person in various instances. And so it's just difficult to watch.
We've seen villains, quote unquote villains before, but it's more so like villains that like someone that crashes like a date and like wants to spend more time with,
it's like sillier.
The Bachelor. It's like, okay, we can get over it and we can just, right. But this is like next level stuff where I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch this. Like, this is intense.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. And I personally, I'm curious what you're thinking. I feel like Matt is, all things considered, handling this situation pretty well, because a lot's being brought to his attention, but I feel like he is handling it with grace and like a gentleman. But how do you think he's been as a lead?
Yeah, definitely. Everything that I have said was more towards like like the
the
negativity
women,
of it
right?
all.
Yeah.
I think that Matt, especially for someone that has not really been on a show prior to this one or like on TV, he's doing an amazing job. I think he's handling it very well. I like that he has tried to set a standard for other women and like things that are not going to fly. He like nips it in the bud right then and there. And I think, you know, I'm falling in love with Matt, like watching him, you know what I mean? Like he's a sweetheart. And I think that he is such a good guy. So I just really hope that he continues to like be himself and not let the noise ever get to him, because that takes away from his experience, you know, and him finding his person. So
definitely,
but he's doing a great job.
Yeah. It must be fun for you to, you know, I know after having this lead experience, you know, you have your podcast Clickbait and you get to sort of like, now you have this different perspective that you're bringing to this podcast, I think. And do you feel like you can look back at these shows now? I mean, we're obviously only like, you know, halfway through the season after yours, but do you feel like you like are watching it back almost like, I feel like we talk about it like it's like sports casting, you know what I mean? It's sort of like how much fun is it for you to, on this podcast, to, you know, just like be able to, you know, share your thoughts as a total expert now?
Oh my gosh. But this is the thing though. It's like, I feel like I know that so much more happens.
Yeah.
So like, I kind of am like, nah, that's not even it. Like, I want to know like what really happened. You know what I mean? So I have like, I don't know. I have my people that I like. But at the same time, just when you're comfortable and you feel like you know what's happening, Bachelor Nation is always there to be like, yeah, you know, nothing. And just like completely flip everything upside down. So I still too get stumped by them. So I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Totally. My current fave is Brie. I have to say, I love her. I think she has the best vibes.
I love her too. She's so cute. She's stunning. And
she almost gives you like Kourtney Kardashian vibes in a weird way.
That is so funny that you said that, because her vibe is just like, no. Like, and she totally reminds me of Kourtney.
The middle
and Kourtney's
part.
Just like, and Kourtney's just like not there for that shit either. And she's like, I don't have time for you. And that's literally the vibe that I get. That's
literally Brie. It's so good.
So
I love
funny.
it.
That is so funny that you said that. I could have put my finger on it. That's so funny.
Well, that's it. So, I mean, you know, you obviously have this podcast and you know, it's going to continue. And I'm curious, like, I'm always curious with this about people after they've had their own season of one of the Bachelor shows is, you know, you obviously have a lot of other things going on. And, you know, I think a lot of times it's sort of that push and pull between, you know, keeping some sort of tether to the Bachelor Nation world. And you have this podcast that is doing that for you, but, and also sort of breaking out and making sure that you have like other stuff going on for yourself outside of Bachelor Nation. And like, cause you obviously are really passionate about a lot of different things and lifestyle, especially in the lifestyle space. And I'm curious sort of how you're thinking about that now that, again, this experience is done for you. You're engaged and you have all these different things going on. What are you thinking about sort of as you look like to your future of your career? You
know, being the Bachelorette is an insane opportunity, and it's definitely something that I hold very close to my heart, and I'm very, very, very proud of. But I feel like that is such a small part of me, you know, and there's so much more that I want to show people. And it's been kind of busy. I don't think people also realize that I've only been off air for like a month.
It feels like it's been 5 years already at this point. Time is so weird, right?
But it's just like I'm still trying to catch my bearings. But I feel like, you know, there's so much that I want to do. And like last week, I had the opportunity to co-host and on Entertainment Tonight, which was insane.
Love.
And that is a dream opportunity right there.
Seriously.
And doing things like that, like that's so much more up my alley. And I feel like having more job opportunities in the media space like that is something that I'm looking forward to doing. Hopefully they continue to present themselves. We'll see.
Yeah, I think they will. Knock on wood.
Hopefully. But it's things like that I also love. And I do like how you said the lifestyle space, fashion and beauty, and being like the first biracial bachelorette. Like it was big for me in order to like represent people that look like me. Yeah. Well, if I can help anybody in the beauty space of like how I can help represent and like shed light on products that I use or things that, you know, not everybody advertises on social media because, you know, it's a small, I don't know. I feel like not everybody talks about sunscreen that has a white pigment on your face when you have a lot of melanin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's
I was just reading about something called Black Girl Sunscreen, and it's like, it's a whole thing that's not talked about. And it's like
100%.
Yeah.
And so like, it's like little things that I feel like that if I can continue to shed light on and be a part of, like, I would love to do that. And so I'm just trying
That's
to,
cool.
there's so many things that we're working on, and I hope to continue in that space. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it feels like you can really give your own spin from this perspective that you have that not everyone who's been in your position has. And I think that's really special for you to lean into, because I'm guessing that you have kind of heard that feedback from viewers and people on Bachelor Nation who aren't, they don't necessarily identify with the white leads, and and the people that have kind of represented people for 2 decades now on this show. It's like you are really kind of helping to break down these barriers. So have you felt that sort of like that, people have reached out and said that you have represented them and kind of struck that extra connection during your season?
Yes. In fact, I started like screenshotting these messages because it was just, it's the insane, the insane outpour of like love and like appreciation, and just like people feeling like they've been like seen or like being heard and be able to identify. Even when I didn't have even the right words to say, like they know that feeling of like not having those right words, So, yeah. So that kind of motivates me in order to be like, okay, how can I try to help you? But it's always like a fine line. I feel like I always get in my head because people always like make the influencer space kind of sound like a negative connotation. But like, to be honest with you, own that damn space and make it yours. And that's what I need to start doing.
I agree with you. I think it's actually really interesting that there's such a negative connotation with the word influencer and, even just that space. I just had Rocky Barnes on, who's a really amazing blogger and Instagram person. Yeah. And we talked a little about that. And we were talking sort of about how like, also the word influencers is just kind of like a catch-all term for a lot of different types of people. And there are people that give it a bad rep, but there's also a ton of people who would call themselves influencers who there's nothing negative about. Like they're like what is there to hate on, in my opinion?
Right.
It's like, I don't know. I think it's such an interesting thing that people place this negativity on what some of what you do, and it's just like, what is negative about it?
Right. Just let me live my life, okay? Like, let me just do me, and it's not hurting you. And
it's not hurting you.
I don't know, but like I've definitely felt that way before. I don't want to identify with that, but like at the end of the day, there's so much more to me, and if I can help, I will.
Definitely. And we just talked about sort of, you were the first ever biracial lead on Bachelor or Bachelorette. Rachel Lindsay was obviously the first Black lead. There's a current situation happening that I don't really need you to comment on, because I feel like it's going to continue to evolve like every single day. But I'm curious, again, from your perspective, which is very pertinent as it relates to the advancement of representation and continued like diversity efforts in Bachelor Nation. I'm curious sort of like what you hope to see moving forward, because, your season was a big step forward, but there's obviously a lot more work to be done. I'm just curious sort of what your perspective on that is, because it's obviously extremely relevant to this conversation.
I just feel like at the end of the day, there's so much room for like education and growth. And I think that if everybody just were to acknowledge that and come forth and just say, I'm growing and I'm learning, and educate themselves. I feel like at this point in time, like there's really no excuse to not being, to giving excuses for past issues, or actions. And so I just feel like at the end of the day, we're all trying to learn, we're all trying to grow. And I feel like if you just own that space and know that you don't have all the answers at times, and you can learn from other people, take that and apologize and just move forward.
Yeah. As long as you show that you're looking to change, I think that's sort of the least you can ask. So I think that's well said. That's really well said. So wrapping it up a little bit here, I like to end with 2 questions. And one is, again, last year was a tough year. And so this year I'm trying to have the perspective of like, okay, what can we look forward to? What's something that is exciting you? So Tayshia, what is something that you were looking forward to either this year, personally, professionally? Talk to me.
Well, what am I looking forward to? Well, I'm honestly looking forward to traveling a little bit.
Yeah.
When the time when it comes, you know what I mean? I would love to be, I love Europe, but I would love to be in some warm weather, drinking a cocktail on water. with Thackeray, because I would love to travel with him.
That's so ideal right now.
It'd be so nice. I feel like that's the one thing that we're missing in a relationship.
Absolutely.
But other than that, career-wise, it would just be to, again, hopefully land like my dream job, just really come into my own and keep, I don't know, just falling into these opportunities and really finding what other people identify with and where I can help and benefit people. So I really hope that like I identify or create my brand this year.
Yeah. Awesome. And then lastly, I know that I've been watching like every single freaking show that is out there on every single streaming service. What is something that you have watched or are watching that you are recommending to people?
Oh, well, I will say, I am not the person to jump on bandwagons when people are watching a lot of things. I did binge Bridgerton as well as of recently. What is it called with Britney Spears? What is it called?
Framing Britney Spears.
I just watched that.
Oh my God. What were your thoughts?
Oh, I feel so bad for the girl. And I want to free Britney so bad. It's not even
Me
funny.
too. Hashtag free Britney.
Oh my God. I love her so much. Like, but it really pisses me off, to be honest with you. Like, how is it possible?
It's crazy also just thinking about it from the lens of 2021 and like just the stuff that even us as like consumers of media that we just weren't even primed to think about back then. Right. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
And the fact that this is going on still and it's like this big of a deal. I don't know. And it's 2021. Like, how is she...
It's really upsetting. It's really upsetting. I know. And there's so much blame to go around, but it's at the end of the day, I just want her to like be happy and be free and control her life. And that's just all we want for Brit. So,
but I'm also here for all of her dance videos. So continue.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We love her Instagram. We love Britney's Instagram.
Oh my gosh.
So Framing Britney Spears and Bridgerton are the two Tayshia recommendations. Those are great recommendations.
Yes. As of now, I mean,
okay.
Oh, and Malcolm, what's that new thing that just came out with Zendaya?
Oh, Malcolm and Marie. I haven't watched that yet.
I haven't watched it yet. I'm supposed to watch it this weekend, but I've heard it's phenomenal. She's my girl. I love Zendaya.
Amazing. So I love her.
I'll let you know what I think about that.
Well, Tayshia, it was so fun to talk to you and to connect with you. Where can people follow you and listen to your podcast outside of after listening to this?
Well, you can find me on my Instagram, which is just my first name, Tayshia, or my podcast called Clickbait. It's on any place that you listen to podcasts, Wondery app, Spotify, Apple Music, everything. So
awesome. Well, Tayshia, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week and stay safe and stay healthy.
This was so fun. Hopefully I run into you.
Absolutely. All right.
See you later.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. For more celebrity interviews, subscribe to We Should Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you heard, please rate and review us, as any show of support you can give us would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at Gibsonoma on Twitter and Instagram, and you can follow In the Know at In the Know on Twitter and at Watch In the Know on Instagram. We'll talk to you next time.